All right, welcome back to Off the Bench. Team up Jake, Mario, Danny hanging out with you. So do you want to hear our records when it's all said and done? So based on the quantum Rodgers factor, whether or not Rodgers plays, if he doesn't, I had 11-6 or 10-7, and you had 10-7 or 9-8. So it seems like we both have the Saints pegged right there at that kind of wild card spot. Let's go to the phone lines right now. Talk to Nick Underhill of New Orleans Off Football, which again, sign up for New Orleans Off Football. It's the best Saints coverage from Nick. It goes directly to support Nick as well, so that's great. No kind of corporate overlord. You're supporting the person you love reading so much right there. Nick, what's going on, man? Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I hope everybody's doing okay and handling the weather the best they can.
Yeah, man, everybody's trying to make it for sure. So I was interested to read your schedule breakdown, Nick, where you remain bullish on this team. I think you said you landed at somewhere around 12-5. Now that you've had a little time to digest, has that changed? And does that involve the quantum Rodgers factor, where does your record change if he plays or not?
Yeah, I think I probably went one too rich there. If you ask me now, I'd probably say 11. Now that I've had a little more time to think about it, I don't know if 17 got me mixed up and my math was off. I don't know, but yeah, 12. I think 12 is too many. But I think if you were setting over under, I think 11 will be the number, and I think it'd be hard to go on either side of it. So I that kind of makes me feel like that would be the right prediction. Rodgers are not. I don't know the way this defense always starts in September. That week one game is always going to be a toss-up. They'd probably beat Blake Bortles, but they might be without Marshawn Lattimore. So that's kind of a wash there.
Good point.
Going back to 2018, I think they've allowed 27 points per game in September. So they need to come out and be a little bit better starting. But I do think after that Green Bay game, things set up pretty well for them to kind of go through their lumps and win their games. It's a lot of weaker offenses. I think teams like New England might be a little better. Carolina might be a little better. But, overall, the way it sets up, if you have to pick a stretch of games without Lattimore, save for Green Bay, I think it sets up well, and they should get off and going a little bit. So I think that's kind of the big factor here is just that early season slate is pretty weak. And, I think they should be in decent position at the end of September if Jameis Winston, isn't on pace to turn the ball over 40 sometimes or, whatever it is with his touchdowns interceptions and fumbles.
So the Lattimore element is interesting because I guess had I considered that, let's say he did miss those first 4 games, is 3-1 still where you would set the expectation level for what you need to be at coming out of that first quarter?
Maybe. I mean, they can't get too far behind. I mean, you don't have an eraser at quarterback this year, so I think that's the thing that's a little bit worrisome. But look, I mean, their cornerback depth, I think, is terrifying right now. You start looking down the list, and after Lattimore, it's Robinson, Paulson Adebo, P.J. Williams, Ken Crawley, Keith Washington, Grant Haley, Bryce Thompson, Lawrence Woods. So, if you can rack up wins against teams you should beat, I think you need to win those games this year because they're probably going to lose games against the teams that they should lose them against. And, it's going to be a little bit harder to steal games against Seattle and, Tampa Bay. And, I think even Atlanta's going to be a little bit better. So, yeah, when you're playing Washington, New York, New England, I think those are the games that you have to win. And all the gimmies on the schedule need to end up on the right side. And you can't have that loss to Philadelphia and end up where you want to be when, it's weird to talk about because, when you take Breeze out of the equation, it kind of changes the psychology of the whole way you look at this team. But, last year they had Breeze and the psychology was, they'll be fine. I don't know if Breeze was the reason they won those games, but when you take them out, it feels scary, even though, we kind of knew at a certain point last year Drew Brees wasn't Drew Brees anymore due to the injuries and everything else. But, I just think the psychology of the team, you got to win those games you're supposed to win.
Nick, obviously we always talk about division opponents whenever the schedule is released, but something that I always paid attention to was, okay, who are you playing, from the other conference, and obviously you're playing the AFC East here. So how do you view the Saints compared to the AFC East and the teams, the Dolphins and Jets and Patriots and obviously the Bills on your schedule there?
Yeah, I think the Bills are going to be probably one of the toughest games on the schedule. And just kind of the way it sets up, I think it's on a short week after playing at Philadelphia. Maybe the one thing that helps you a little bit is that, both those quarterbacks get out of the pocket and they can extend plays. So maybe some of your preparation for Philadelphia will help you kind of turn around on the short week for Buffalo. But I think that's the worst possible scenario, to have to play them under. It'll be interesting to see how the Bills handle this season, because I think this is kind of the first time since like the Jim Kelly era that they're actually playing with expectations. They aren't the underdog.
Right.
Like they're a legitimate Super Bowl contender. So, we'll see how they handle that. But yeah, that division, it's going to be tough. New England's not as good as they were. But the thing I think people forget too is that like 6 or 7 of their core players opted out last year. Those guys will be back. They went on a free agent spending frenzy. It should be a winnable game, but they're going to be better than they were last year. And, it's the Patriots. Until, we see them take 2 to the head, you got to expect them to always find a way to be a decent team. So they'll be a tough game. New York should be winnable. And, Miami, they went 10-6 last year. So that's not a gimme either. So that division's going to be tough. And, the good thing is that, the only cold weather game that they really should play the whole season, Philadelphia's in November, but it's usually in the upper 40s around that time. New York's the only one. So,
yeah,
I mean, that was the first thing I looked at the schedule, is just kind of seeing how those set up. So that's advantageous. So I don't think that it's too hard as far as weather. But yeah, that division's going to be tougher than probably people expect.
One of the more exciting games in terms of stage will be at Seattle Monday night. Nick, I thought you raised a very good point. I mean, what do you expect that atmosphere to be like there in week 6, right before the bye? Or 7?
Oh, God, I can't wait. I can't wait to be in stadiums with people, and hopefully we are at that point. It seems like everything's heading that way. That's going to be an incredible atmosphere, Monday night Seattle. Oh, man, it's Superdome. I can't wait to be in there with people in there. Last season was just so terrible and so sterile, and it was just, I don't know, it felt like a season didn't even happen in some respects. It felt like a fake year. So, yeah, going there, that's going to be probably insane. I mean, a primetime game, Seattle. I don't know if that's their first primetime game back, but that place is going to be crazy, and they're going to have to find a way to handle that. And, those are the things, too, with Breeze. Breeze could handle all that stuff, and there was a calming effect with him. Those are the little things I think that even outside of the play that they're going to have to find answers for. And, I'm sure Jameis can handle it. He's played a lot of big games. If it's Taysom, I'm sure Taysom can handle it. But it's just not quite the same. And those things that you just kind of took for granted, they're going to have to reprove. And there's a lot of unknown with this team that we still got to find out.
During training camp, Nick, one of my favorite things is, which position battle is going to garner the most attention? Which one's going to be written about the most? Because it always happens. No matter where your roster is, there is a group that is battling during training camp. And so I know there's multiple positions we could say for the Saints. Receiver maybe, who's the number 2, corner, safety, whatever it might be. What do you think is going to be the most talked about?
I mean, outside of quarterback, I don't want to cheat and just give you the obvious answer. I'm looking – I don't even know if it's so much battles. It's just is where we need answers. I think tight ends maybe a huge one for me, because if Nick Van Hett or Adam Troutman aren't ready, I think, you kind of have more pressure than on the wide receivers and everything. And at least there's some answers at other positions. I think that one's, really, really up in the air. So, I'm looking at that. And then you mentioned CB2. I think that's huge. Paulson Adebo, if he can play well, I think alleviates a lot of concerns. I'm still in the camp that I think that there's going to be another player at that position. I don't think you go forward with what you have. I think there's an effort to find somebody else. It's just a matter of, can they sign someone? Can they trade for someone? But, I don't think at this point right now they're standing pat at that position by any means.
Nick, which receiver do you think gets the biggest kind of, outside of Michael Thomas, Alvin Kamara, right? Because we keep trying to figure out how good we think the weapons for the Saints are or not. Which receiver is the biggest benefactor of a quarterback change?
Yeah, so I think I'm probably the default president of the Traquan Smith Believers Club.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, I think there's just things about the way he plays that are going to benefit him. I don't think he's the most detail-oriented wide receiver. I think there's times that his splits are off. He doesn't quite know how to, line up. And it took him a while to figure things out. Even going into last year, he spoke openly and honestly about figuring those things out. And I think with the quarterback like Breeze, it's 3-step drop back, foot hits, balls coming out before, the guy's even on his break. And if you're looking and reading the field and this guy's off just a little bit, he's going to be out of that immediately. So, I think with the quarterback that holds the ball a little bit longer, maybe waits for the picture to develop a little bit more, I think there's maybe a chance for him to, get open in different ways with a different quarterback, and at UCF, he was a really good downfield receiver. I wouldn't call him, a deep threat, but he made a lot of plays down the field. And I think just getting a stronger arm quarterback, someone that can hold the ball a little bit longer, I think it's really going to benefit him a lot. And, I think when they brought Trayvon in, the offense had already started to become much more condensed. And, it's always been rhythm-based, but I think it even got, sped up even more. And I just don't know that he was the perfect fit for this type of offense. And I think maybe there's a chance that he could perform a little bit better with someone else.
Nick, to wrap up here, and I don't know exactly how they did things this year, but any rookie minicamp news or anything interesting coming out of minicamp?
Yeah, so it's just, mostly classroom stuff, orientation, working off the whiteboards, learning the playbook, stuff like that. I don't really think there was any on-field stuff. Alex Hoffman, the offensive lineman, they had signed as an undrafted player. He retired to become a doctor. So, that was probably the most interesting thing coming out. I know they're starting phase 2 OTAs yesterday. I don't think there's a huge turnout. There are some, veteran guys in the building, guys that have workout bonuses and stuff like that. So, I don't think that it's like 75 people like Denver has or anything. But, there are some guys there. But it's going to be another weird offseason, and the accountability on players to get ready themselves, that they're going to have to make sure they do that and show up ready to go when mandatory stuff begins.
Nick Underhill, at Nick_Underhill. Catch him on Twitter. Go to neworleans.football. Go sign up today. It is so worth it, y'all. And like I said, it's Sport Nick's directly, and he has the best Saints takes out there. Nick, thanks so much for joining us, man.
Yes, take it easy.
All right, take it easy. So, Nick, giving you – what do you think? Should the Saints over-under be at 9.5 or 10.5?
9.5.
9.5?
Yeah.
I think that should be our Citizens Bank and Trust poll question today. Saints over-under at 9.5. You going over or under? I want to see where the Who Dat Nation is at. If they're anything like Danny, yeah, guarantee they're going over.
What were the results yesterday?
Okay. Accounting, yeah, we'll get the results on the other side of this. Accounting for Saints bias. Should we put 10.5 on the poll question to make it a little tougher on people?
Apparently, you're the host, so you make the decision.
A lot of people will jump into 10, right? You don't think? If we did 9.5? All right, let's get back. We're going to Ask the Bench, brought to you by Cole Kerslight next here on OTB.